Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we're joined here tonight in the studio to shed more light on this topic by Ambassador Soad Shalaby, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Ambassador Shalaby, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Your Excellency, now, if we want to take a look on the Egyptian diplomacy, the foreign relations, it has taken quite a wise, very critical and sensitive aspect of it over the past few years, and we've seen this reflect on Egypt's political role and political weight among the international community, but also the economic life of the Egyptian economy. How much of an influence do you think the Egyptian foreign relations and diplomacy has played a role in the Egyptian economy and its progress so far?
Well, as you know, that any successful country has to depend on two pillars, the politics and the economics. So our diplomacy has always depended on these two pillars. So our embassies abroad, like we have over 120 embassies abroad, and they are all working so hard in order to empower our politics and our economy. How do we do that? And during the past, let's say 7 years during President Sisi's presidency, he has done a great leap in our vision and our leadership in the region and in the internationally also. So the image of Egypt has been a lot more brighter than before because of its diplomacy and because of the international relations, bilateral and multilateral. So we have this role as a nation. We started building our nation so that Egypt would become a real strong militarily and politically. And then we started doing bilateral relations with almost all countries in the world. We have very strong bilateral relations, whether it is in Africa or in Asia, in Europe, in America, Latin America, or the United States. So having strong bilateral relations is one of the strongest foreign relations of Egypt. And also we have a very strong multilateral relations, and this is the diplomacy of UN agencies and all the multilateral organizations.
Yes. Your Excellency, now Egypt is located in North Africa and the Middle East, and it's really a region that is full of political turbulences. I mean, we're surrounded by crises that are taking place and have been taking place for many years in Libya, in Syria, in Sudan, and obviously the Gaza Strip and the Palestinian territories. We're surrounded by all of these imbalances and turbulences politically and regionally. How difficult did it prove for Egypt to maintain this sort of calm and safe and stable diplomacy, even though if it's not necessarily involved or directly involved with these crises regionally, these crises involve many international partners, many international countries, from the European countries, from the United States, all of these things, yet we're still able to thankfully maintain a very safe and assured relationship with all of these countries?
Well, because we put our priorities straight. First of all, Egypt is not a country that has interests in colonizing other country or in taking other countries' advantage of being neighbors or fighting with other countries, even with our the interest in the rightful interest in the Nile, we have resorted to mediation. So we are not a country that is wanting to attack other countries. What we want is peace and security for our people. And that is why we care for our borders, and we are very much strengthening our borders so that we do not get engaged in any fighting around, whether it is with Israel or with Gaza, with Hamas, or with Libya, or with Sudan. We are protecting our borders to protect our people, and that is our priority. So we are not going to fight except if we are attacked, and that is our priority. So peace and security, we have the biggest army in Africa. Why? Not because we want to fight, but we want to protect our borders, and we don't want our peoples to get attacked.
Your Excellency, now all of the international community, they're looking at the African continent as a sort of safe haven and a real guarantee for resources and investments for the whole world. And Egypt constitutes one of the main players and main countries and main economies within the African continent. Is this one reason why everybody is looking for Egypt for investments and probably opportunities for economic cooperation?
Yes, I think Egypt has proven in the past 7 years that it is stable. It is an attractive climate for investment, and it has friendly relations with all countries, whether they are Western countries or African countries. So even during the summit, the African summit we presided over in 2020, we were able to attract a lot of investments from the G20 and the G7. When President Sisi was attending these meetings, he was able to attract lots of investments. And now Egypt is the highest investor in Africa in 2021. We were number 6 in 2014. Now we are top. We are the biggest investor, and that is a big achievement for Egypt, because we are able to export and send our products to African countries. We are able to invest in industry, in communication, in infrastructure, in banking, in digitalization, in many fields, in gas and in energy. We are able to help also and give our experience to many African countries, and this has given Egypt the position to attract more investments from Western countries and from multinational companies to come and invest in Egypt for the benefit of Africa as a continent. So we are not investing in Africa like, for instance, China, or like we don't have any interests, but just economic interests to raise the standard of living of Africans, to create more jobs, to raise the bilateral relations, whether it is COMESA countries, whether it is EFTA countries. We are trying to do an area of free trade in Africa, so that all the borders are opened for our markets, increasing our markets, expanding our markets, in order that the African products are able to be exchanged between our countries.
Yes. Well, you've mentioned when Egypt was chairing the African Union, and during that time, the the African Free Trade Agreement was established. How much do you feel Egypt's economic cooperation within the African continent is essential to its growth, as opposed to not just the international community and Europe and Asia, but specifically the African continent? I mean, we've seen the president highlighted the importance of strengthening the relations between Egypt and African countries, and not just politically, but also economically. And we've seen the establishment of the industrial cities in Tanzania quite recently, and we've seen many trade agreements signed with the African continents. We've seen Egypt taking part in the Chinese-African summit as well. How much do you feel, how big of a role is the Egyptian-African relations strongly pushing forward the Egyptian economy?
It's a very, very strong relations, because, as I said, we are not doing like the Western countries who were colonizing Africa before. France and England are going back to Africa, but they are not accepted as much as Egypt is, because Egypt has no interest in except to raise the standard of living and do economic growth for us and for the country that we are helping, so, or that we are investing in. So there is a lot of focus on our relations with African countries during the presidency of starting the presidency. But unfortunately, because of the COVID-19, that has stopped the implementation of the African Trade Agreement, because it is very difficult to start any activities that are related with this pandemic affecting the African continent, especially also that the African countries were were marginalized regarding the vaccinations, and the Western world now is putting a lot of restrictions on many African countries, and this is even going to hinder our economic growth as a continent. And as Egypt and the relations with other countries, if there are no, for instance, if the airlines are stopped and if the maritime lines are stopped, so how are we going to even exchange goods? So we have to really find a way in order to raise the standard of our health sector in Africa. And also Egypt can help a lot its African, the friendly African countries with its high standard of medical equipments and medical research and medical vaccines. We are now industrializing them, so we can offer them to our friendly African countries, so that they can fight also the pandemic as much as we do. And we can help also in investing in vaccines in Africa. Also, we can give the same kind of help to our to other countries.
Yes. Ambassador Shalaby, now, what would you say would be easier for the Egyptian government or the Egyptian economy to cooperate with the African continent and African states, or the international community, the European, the Asian, the United States? Which would be easier? Because observers are saying, well, it would be easier to have more investment and economic cooperation with African states because of the proximity geographically, how close they are in terms of they share similar needs to the Egyptian needs. But then other observers are saying, well, the European countries and the more developed nations, they have the know-how, they have more established multinational companies, they have the finances to cooperate economically with Egypt. Which would you say would be easier for the Egyptian economy?
Well, the economic model is very clear. If you have the capital, then go to the low wages. And in Africa, you have the natural resources very available, all kinds of natural resources that have not been exploited. And you have the low wages. So if you are to do an economic model, you use the capitals of the the Western countries and the multinational companies, and you invest in Africa through Egypt, because Egypt can provide the financial institutions and the risk management and the know-how. Sometimes Egypt is much better in a lot of fields, and invest in one of the countries that need your that kind of expertise. So it's not a one-way street, like for instance go west and that's it. No, it's much better to do tripartite cooperation, or to do BOT, or things like different models of partnerships and different models of economic production or economic investment is available whenever you can provide infrastructure, whenever you can provide financial institutions, whenever you can provide risk management and create jobs. That is the best model for.
Yes. Well, Your Excellency, you've mentioned that the nature of the political direction Egypt is adopting, the peaceful one, the stable one, along with the energy and the natural gas that's been discovered in the Mediterranean. You've mentioned those two aspects. Do you feel that they have prompted Egypt as a reliable, trustworthy political and economic partner, and at the same time with the gas, the natural and renewable energy resources, the electricity that Egypt is able to generate now? It really puts Egypt on a very advanced ranking within the energy hub, energy countries, that prompted other countries from the international community to want to invest in Egypt and want to really explore and use the potential that Egypt has within this sector in specific.
Yes, you are right, Mr. Hani. Don't forget that Egypt was a pioneer in finding out to explore how to bring electricity out of the high dam first, and then has given this to other countries the know-how of electricity. And also now there is the renewable energy, and Egypt also has been very pioneer in this field. Egypt has done a big job, a big power plant for renewable energy in Aswan, for instance.
Yes.
And this is, we can duplicate this, or we can share this experience with other countries, because we have the sun in Africa, and all countries are benefiting from this power of the sun and the solar energy, and other renewable energy. So the gas is one also that, as you said, we have the natural gas. We have an experience, a very long experience, and we are benefiting from the using and exporting, and for local use and for export. So it's something that also we can help other countries in exploration for natural gas, because the future is about energy, and if we are not going to use the natural resources that Africa still is not, it's really unused until now. All the energy that have not been explored, and many countries like Turkey, Israel, China, and even the United States are interested to explore the possibilities of natural resources and gas, of course,
yes.
and oil in Africa.
Yes. Your Excellency, now Egypt is considered, according to the international institutions and indicators, as you've mentioned, the top African economy by the end of this year, in this fiscal year. Now, with the increase of our exports and decrease of our imports, and only today even President Sisi, in his meeting with the Prime Minister, they've really focused on the strengthening of the national industries and the domestic and local production in order to replace imported products and goods. How much do you feel Egypt can achieve through strengthening and boosting the national industries and domestic productivity in order to even replace any imported goods? How far are we into, not saying 100% substitutions for imported goods, but at least 2/3 of it?
Yes, it is possible, of course, because Egyptians have a lot of expertise, and they have even abroad, if you use all the Egyptians who have immigrated and who have learned a lot from the West, and they came back, and they are helping also in the Egyptian economy now in order to provide the know-how that is missing. And this is one thing that Egypt is very well known for, that it is human resources are very rich, whether it is knowledge or whether it is handcraft, like they are able to do a lot of small and medium industries, and they are able to export. Whether it's this, only they need to study the markets, what are the products that are going to really enrich the society. And of course it is much better than importing, because it is good for the economy, it will create more jobs, it will open more investments, and the private sector will be enriched. And of course many new venues will be opened in order to do products that were not being imported before. I mean, were not being locally industrialized. Like, for instance, the cars we were using, we were just importing the parts and doing assembling. But now we are trying to start to industrialize the car from scratch, and this will, of course, be a very good business for Africa. We can export cars to Africa, to Asia.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, along with strengthening and boosting the national and domestic production, Egypt also has recorded an increase in the net foreign investments in Egypt by 47% in 3 months. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.